Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin Sokoloff, here with my co-host Ron Ward, and today we are sitting down with John Alite, a former Gambino crime family associate and Mafia enforcer turned motivational speaker, author, and city councilman. John's story of power, betrayal, and transformation gives us an inside look at how leadership psychology plays out in organized crime.
Yeah, and this isn't about glamorizing the past per se. It's about understanding what makes a person get involved with the mafia, what keeps them loyal, and how the human mind responds to strong or toxic leadership. John, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on the podcast with Dirty Side of Leadership.
All right.
Yeah,
Kristin.
Awesome to have you here. Let's get started. John, let's lay a foundation. How did you become an associate of the Gambino crime family?
My dad lived on the Lower East Side of New York City, and he was raised around gangsters when he came over from Albania as about 8-10-year-old kid. And he became friendly with Lucky Luciano's cousin, Charlie Luciano Blackie, same name as Lucky.
Okay. And then you got tied in?
Well, as I, started hanging around as a little baby, he'd bring me in the company of Blackie, Luciano, and different mob guys at card games. My father was a gambler. He was always with them. He ended up owning a couple of bars with them. He was a gambler, and he'd be up and down in his financial status, but he was an outskirt guy, not involved in the actual violence of the criminal organization, but as a friend and a business owner. So he kept us in their company growing up since we're babies, and I, started from there and continued in that path.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, because in every organization, legal or illegal, hierarchy matters. And, I want to ask you, what did leadership structure look like inside the mafia, and how did people rise through influence rather than title per se?
The good end when I was first grew up in the mob, and I'm not saying there's too many positive sides of the mafia. I actually very outspoken against that world. But the regimented structure of the mafia was what made it successful in the 60s, 70s, on to probably 2000. After that, they lost their structure. They lost the fear of organized crime and the respect. And I think what happened with that structure was obviously technology of law enforcement, betrayal of watching bosses betray the underlings more so than the underlings betray the bosses. And that came about with Rudy Giuliani and RICO indictments, which brought in the hierarchy, giving up the guys that were beneath them. And I think that started the destruction of the mafia.
Yeah, as a former U.S. probation officer, I had some RICO cases, and that could be a very complex situation for sure. So for our audience, John, you were not a made man, you were Albanian. First, will you tell us kind of what that means? And then I've got a follow-up question for you.
Well, when you're an outsider and you're hanging around the mob, and after, whether it's because of nepotism and family, they make guys even though they don't deserve positions. They're not highly intelligent, or they're not per se workers, meaning violent. They just bring them along because they believe they can trust them to do their bidding, go collect money for them. They'd show up for, one of the leadership roles as far as passing messages. So they would make these kind of guys, induct them into the mafia. Guys that, like myself, kind of earn your way in, meaning I grew up around them. They all know me since I'm a kid, but I would be a worker. I'd be a guy that would go out and do the work that other guys weren't capable of doing or didn't want to do, or were scared to do or intimidated to do, and that's the violence. So I grew up actually putting in the work, and also I became a pretty big earner for the crime family.
Yeah, I'm sure you had to work a lot harder. From a leadership perspective, do you think being on the outside versus being in the family was an advantage in some perspectives?
In some perspectives, being on the outside uh, is obviously, in my opinion, a good thing because you're not involved in the murders, the violence, the shootings, the RICO cases when they come down. You're not hit as hard as the guys that are directly involved. Those are the guys usually that are putting they'll cooperate and give the structure of what goes on in our world. But as a guy that's not Italian, that was very familiar with all the bosses since I'm a kid, I became what they call a street boss, where because I was with the hierarchy of the mafia, they entrusted me, guys like Jimmy Burke from Goodfellas, different people that weren't Italian. Although we had a status of being a made guy, we weren't officially made.
Mm. That's
Very interesting.
yeah, it is because it's like a blood. Is it a blood oath?
It's a blood oath. Originally, you had to have both parents that were Italian. Later on, they changed that because it was watered down. They couldn't get the
Mm.
members they needed. So they said just if you're on your father's side, they would
Okay.
make you. But it's like any other, I guess, activity in sports. Your father's the coach, you become a made guy. If your uncle's the coach, you become a made guy. And they're not earning their way. And I think that was the downfall. They were more
Mm.
more worried about the numbers. They wanted to have numbers instead of quality, and it was a
Mm.
big mistake in the mafia to do those things. They should have
Yeah,
Hey,
that
kept them as
Kristen, I
quality
had
guys.
one other thing.
yeah.
This was asked to me by someone else. John, was there any type of initiation, hazing, an actual oath, especially from being an associate versus, being in the family? Did anything like that take place?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to earn your way at the beginning, especially if you're not if there's no nepotism where your family, direct family to a made guy or a boss or a captain or something. But
Mm.
if you're not, you're gonna have to earn the trust, and by earning the trust, back years ago, you would have to be somewhere involved in a murder, and I'm going back now, 50 years. That
Mm-hmm.
changed over the years. If you were a big earner, they would bring you in whether you're a big earner for the family, directly, indirectly, they would bring you in. And later, after as the years change, you didn't have to be involved in murder. And that doesn't mean you got to be a shooter, or you just could have been the guy that robbed the car that gave it to him, or you're the guy that
Mm.
passed the message to the other guys that they were going to commit this murder. Anywhere along that uh, projection of, of
Mm.
of that murder occurring, you would be involved, and that would be good enough to say that you made your way. But uh, in the when you look back now and you see most of these guys, is only 1% that actually doing that kind of work of the
Mm.
actual violence. There's probably another 2 or 3% are the earners. The rest are sheep, not too educated on the street or educated uh, and, the intelligence wise of making money, have the ability to make money. So, it's not what people think. 97% of them are just sheep, weak, and they use them as pawns almost.
Okay. That's really interesting. Okay, may I ask, so what are some of the ways, like, that you become an earner? Like, what is it the protection? Because I've just seen the movies, John. So I'm like, so is it yeah, talk to me about how you become an earner, because that's what you were a good earner. Where does that revenue come
Well,
from?
I think it comes from education, to be honest with you, whether you're educated on the street or you're self read or you're educated in school or trade.
Mhm.
You have to have a business sense. And, when you get a lot of these guys, they're just dummies. They follow the leader,
Mhm.
just like you see these street gangs. Most of them are, young, dumb kids, no confidence. And
Mm.
somebody who's got a strong personality brings them along with them. They follow them and they do what he says or tells them to, but they don't have the ability to act on their own or the ability to open up a legitimate business. So Although
Mm.
you're a gangster, you have the ability to say, listen, I'm going to open this nightclub. I'm going to open up a construction company. I'm going to go into a trade. And you bring your team of guys with you, and although they're not capable, but these are the guys that'll be carrying your buckets. These are the guys that'll run to the
Mm.
bank and go get everybody lunch. And these are the guys that we call gophers. And the majority of mobsters are gophers in reality.
Mm.
It's not what people think. They dress the part, they learn to
Yeah.
talk somewhat the part, but they're really not the part.
Very interesting, very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, because you see that, like, in the movies, right? Like, sanitation, right? Or some all of
Yeah,
that. But, yeah, you do kind of forget about the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of legitimate businesses that are being ran, um, through the organization. Just something to add here, in business, weak leaders we talk about micromanaging all the time on this podcast, John, because I personally really hate management. But in your world, or your previous world, I should say, weak leaders, I'm assuming, didn't survive, or if they did, like you're saying, they led to the ultimate downfall of the mob, right? What behaviors signaled insecurity versus strength in a leader?
well, you get gangsters that are well known for boasting, lying, bravado that they really don't have.
Mm.
For them to jump in a boxing ring or a UFC ring, you see very few guys that are talented enough to do that. They come in with 5 or 6 guys against one. It's almost a bully mentality.
Mm.
But when they come across somebody who's very tough or somebody's very aggressive, and I'll give you an example. Years ago, if you put your hand on a mobster, touch him or threaten him, you would get killed for that. There would be
Mm.
no way out of that. You're going to be killed. Now, years later, we go into the last 15, 20 years. I know guys that killed gangsters, made guys and families, and instead of them killing the guy, they brought him in and initiated him into mob and made him a made guy. That'll
Oh,
show
wow.
you the weakness of how things changed over the years. That
Mm.
it's amazing almost. So you're almost telling anybody on the street, if you're wild enough and tough enough, you can hurt any one of us and we're not going to do anything about it.
Mm. Boy, are we seeing that today,
Yeah,
especially
we
in
are.
certain cities. Wow.
John,
Well, you see that in government, no different.
Exactly.
I'm a Republican. As a young guy, the Democrat Party was different. I think it's almost like a costume now. They say Democrat, in my opinion, but I believe they're communists. It's not that party. I don't think
Mhm.
they should be called Democrat Party, in my belief. I think they should be called what they are, the socialist communists now.
so John, I'm really interested in, fear, and I always tell people you can't have courage, or true courage, in fear. You'll never express, or you'll never stand up to anyone, or you can't have, I'm sorry, integrity if you don't
Mm.
have courage. They go hand in hand. So, you said something interesting about the later years of the mafia. I remember one time I had this multi-state bank robber, and I had to interview this person, and everybody was like, in our office, was going to ask me, like, what was it like? You're sitting down eye to eye. By the time this person had got to me, they'd pled guilty. I was writing a pre-sentence report. They were completely broken, and not near the tough persona when we were in private. And everyone asked me after it was over, they said, "What was it like?" And I said, "Disappointing." And that's about all I told them. So let's talk about fear. And John, we did some research on you, and we want to look at a psychological perspective. But what do you think about your resiliency? What about you helped you survive in prison? And what kind of mindset did you have leading up to testifying against mafia members such as John Gotti Jr.? Like, were you sleeping? How did you cope with all of that? What advice would you give to leaders that may be listening and they're dealing with the Sunday night blues, we call it? They hate their job, they're afraid that something bad, or they think the country's going to, explode. How did you function, and what advice would you give to others?
I think that my father, people knock. My father just passed away. He was 93,
Oh.
and I was very close to my dad. And people, read stories about how my father raised me, and they take it the wrong way, and they take it, wow, he's really hard on him. And I look at it the opposite way. He taught me the truth about life. It's not easy.
Mm.
He taught me not to be afraid. growing up as 2 years old, I already had boxing gloves on, and he kept talking about being tough and being tough. He wasn't school educated. He only went to the third grade. He came from
Oh,
Albania,
wow.
that was a communist country. He grew up in the streets of Lower East Side in New York City, which was a tough crime hub and immigrant, area at the time for Italians and Albanians.
Mm,
So he knew what it was to live in tenements. He knew what it was in Albania to have no money. My grandfather did. So he taught me uh, not to be afraid of being hurt, not be afraid of taking a chance. He also taught me at the same time that no one speaks about, it's okay to cry. It's okay to
mm,
show emotion. It's
Oh,
okay to be
wow.
very affectionate. So he was those things also that nobody talks about, where I'm very honest. People ask me, you did years in solitary confinement. How'd you get through it? I said, I
mm,
cried. I got up and then
mm,
I worked out. And then I psychologically said, so somebody tried to embarrass me. I think it was Gotti, and said, you cried. And I laughed. I said, does he actually want to tell the truth and say, well, I guess he had to cry. I know his father cried before. I know we all cry. We lost children. We definitely cried. And
mhm,
so the fear is, a lot of it is overcoming yourself and ego, right?
mm,
So if you lose your ego, you will be okay with saying, "Yeah, I'm afraid of something, but I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to face my fear. I'm not going to run from it." And
mm,
when I testified, the part that no one ever gets, or somebody for some reason they never bring this out, is I was sitting in a penitentiary in a third world country in Brazil. I was being
oh,
tortured, beat, and I stayed there almost 3 years. And while I stayed there, two crime families, the Bonanno family and the Gambino family, were all cutting deals from all the bosses down. And I ask everybody on a constant basis, well, go look at the time frame and tell me where I was. And if I was a cooperator, why would I run out of the country to 20 something countries? Why would I stay in a third world jail for
mm,
almost 3 years, keeping my mouth shut until I watched boss after boss, captain after captain, maid guy after maid guy, associates, and my own personal family members all testifying and giving information and trying to cut deals. And then
mm,
I said to myself what I already knew when I was on the run, that this life is not about loyalty. It's not about uh, honor. It's not about the integrity that you said. It's about betrayal. It's about power. It's about
mm,
money. It's about manipulation. And it's about surviving yourself. We're
mm,
not the guys that you see on the front lines of World War II or Vietnam, or our police officers that are out on the street that I speak very highly of. And people are like, why do you talk so highly of these guys you went to jail? Because these guys have integrity. They did the right thing with their lives. They are protecting us. They did sacrifice for our freedoms. I didn't do that. I was just a wild guy that got stabbed up, got shot, got battered for an organization I believe would be loyal to me, that was
mhm,
nowhere near loyal to me. And I'm not telling anybody. And the mobs always, guys or their lawyers are always talking nonsense. I wasn't
mm,
a guy sitting in jail and said I can't stay here and I'm going to rat everybody out. I was the guy that was sitting in jail keeping my mouth shut until you guys all
mm,
ratted me out. And I should thank them all because I got to change my life. And it was a surprise to me. I'd watch boss after boss and member after member cooperate against each other. I got to see guys like Sammy Gravano, who wants to tell everybody how tough he is, but as soon as he ratted, he's hiding in a cave somewhere in Arizona. You're not staying out here in New
mm,
York like me. You're not the guy doing the work like me. You're taking credit for it, but you didn't
yeah,
do it. You didn't press no triggers. You didn't fight nobody. You didn't go by yourself to fight three guys or two guys or five guys. You didn't get baseball batted like I did all over the place. I'm not Hercules, but I just was out there, putting myself out there in a life at that time that I believed in. So I did get stabbed up. I did get shot. I did get batted. I did get hit by a car, I, intentionally.
oh my
So
gosh,
when kids are trying to follow that life, I'm here to tell them I am the guy that you guys want to try to be like. And I'm the guy telling you I cried, I suffered, I got stabbed up, I
mhm,
got hurt. It wasn't a one-way thing when you put yourself out there and vulnerable. No different than when I'm talking now, they attack me, but I don't care. I joke, I say I'm the Donald Trump of the street. I know when some people are lying, and the way I speak And I have a list here, not knowing that we were going to do this. You can look at that list. These are about 65. I can read them by location, who was there, what witnesses, what were the victims' names. 65 of them that I baseball batted or piped, right? Now, this isn't Sammy Gravano just telling stories because I'm giving names, locations, and I'm not with 5 guys. I'm by myself on most of them against 2 and 3 and 4 guys. So when you talk the way I do about shootings I did, about stabbings I did, and locations, times, I'm very specific because I don't need to lie because I'm not glorifying it. I'm telling you it's garbage. That life, that world, that nonsense is nothing about, it's only about money and one individual's power. And I use John Gotti, the father, as an example. That man went to jail. That guy, I love that guy. I followed him. I followed his lead. And when he went to prison, everybody dispensed him. His own family did nothing about Sammy Gravano. And that's the man, right? That's the world famous guy. They let him die in jail and nobody did a thing to help him.
Wow.
He hardly got visits, and people could say from his own family. He hardly got letters from his own family. And none of his brothers or cousins or nephews or son in laws did anything about Sammy Gravano. So when you see that, what else do you need to see? I mean, there
Right.
is nothing else to see. It just shows you once you're gone, next man up.
And you've said before that fear works, but respect lasts. Psychology speaking, what's the mechanism behind that? And why does respect create a deeper loyalty?
Respect is because a police officer, let's use somebody of authority. When he's a gentleman and somebody sees a gentleman and he has integrity and he has family values, a nice guy or a good person will respect and say, wow, this guy's a nice guy. And no different than in prison. When you're in prison, there's a guard who's got authority and he tells you, and I've talked about this before, hey, Alite, pick that garbage up. I look at
Mm.
him, and now I gave you a direct order, and my answer is go F yourself. And
Yeah.
now the nice guard says, hey, Alite, do me a favor, buddy, pick that up. And now anybody who's a decent guy is going to go pick that up. And there's
Mhm.
plenty of decent guys in jail. Don't get me wrong. When people always say, well, everybody's criminals, that's not true. There's a lot of guys that I know in prison that made one mistake in 99% of their life. They were good guys. And then there's
Mm.
guys that aren't rehabilitated. I think that
Mhm.
the low life guys that can rape a woman or kill a kid or go into a store and rob it and kill the clerk.
Mhm.
Well, these are people I think you just ain't going to rehabilitate them. And
Right,
people say,
right.
well, look what you did. And I get it. I'm not justifying what I did, but I'm the guy that will kill the guy that was raping the girl. I'm not the guy that goes and rapes a girl. I'm the guy
Mhm.
that turns, and I'm not justifying again. I'm not God or I'm not the police. I shouldn't have been doing those things, but I'm not the guy bothering the community. I'm the guy trying to protect the community in my own ways. But I'm the
Mhm.
guy also breaking the law. So did I deserve jail? Of course I did. I'm not saying, oh, poor me either. But there's a difference in some of these criminals, and some of these people are, I talk about drugs a lot. I lost my daughter to fentanyl because of these
Mm.
open borders, and these are murders. There's guys that do drugs and they go out and sell drugs to do drugs. And then there was
Mm.
guys like me that sold drugs because I was stupid, greedy, lazy, not confident, and wanted to make money off somebody else's suffering. Right.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
there's a difference between me and that drug addict that does it just to get himself what he needs. And
Right,
he
right.
robs something we need. So a lot of this, they need programs, psychological, they don't need
Mhm.
prisons. And then guys like me, yes, we need prisons. If we're going to break the law, we need prisons. And
Mhm.
if you're going to sell fentanyl, to me, you should get the death penalty because those drugs aren't marijuana. It wasn't cocaine in our day where we're killing anybody. We didn't put arsenic in their drug when they asked for cocaine.
Mhm.
Now they're putting fentanyl in things that the people like my daughter thought was a Percocet and they're killing them. That's murder.
Oh,
That's like putting
horrible.
arsenic in somebody's drink in a bar. They didn't
Mm.
ask for it. Why are you putting it in there?
Yeah.
So, I am for strict laws. I am pro police. I am pro ICE. I am pro because I know the other side of this. I know the
Mhm.
side of the dangers of having a society that's not run by law enforcement. and I understand the fear factor, and I understand the respect factor. Respect comes with dignity, what Ron said earlier, dignity and pride, and complying with our police officers and complaining the next day if there's an issue, not the other way around. Because I know myself, I caught some serious beatings from cops, but I'm not like these punk kids from Antifa. We didn't go crying and say, sue them. When you want to be out in the street, in my opinion, you should get your head cracked open by the cops. I says, if you want to break the law, then you need to be handled the same way that you're blowing things up, you're throwing rocks at cops, you hit them in the head, you kill them. They want to go home to their families. And these government, our Democratic governors like Pritzker, whatever his name is, Pritzker.
Yeah.
These guys should be in jail for influencing and telling police officers not to back our ICE or FBI or authority. So maybe that guy that's trying to hurt them the next day goes out and kills or rapes a woman because of him. And we won't know what people are out there wearing masks. And masks should be illegal. Just that. They should be a year in jail. If you're wearing a mask, there's a reason why you're wearing that mask. If you're law enforcement should be able to wear that mask because they're trying to kill them. They're trying to do what they did in Brazil. And I understand this. You got guys that they're fanatics. If they find out who their families are, they'll try to kill them. So these police officers, ICE agents, or immigration officers should be able to wear masks. These idiots that are in government and that are antagonizing and influencing these people to go out and commit crimes, because that's what they're doing. You have people like him and Newsom, like the president says, that is destroying California and influencing people to fight, not because they care about any of these illegal immigrants. They don't care about them.
Right.
Their own power.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, John. Oh my goodness. And here in Portland too, sanctuary state, sanctuary city. So
the chief of police in Portland should be arrested, and all his police officers. They're giving advice to Antifa how to get away from ICE and law enforcement. And to do this, they're taking an oath to protect Americans. When they do something like should be criminal, they should be in jail for it. The badge should come off them. I mean, honestly, I'm a guy that would go out any day in my life now and do the right thing, protecting citizens. If I was able to do it, I would do it.
Yeah.
And these people are making money off of encouraging crime. It's incredible. I mean, the world's upside down. And anybody who thinks anything different, they're lying. Because when you go to south side of Chicago, where I go to, and I know people that were killed there, I know people that were shot there. Let Newsom or Pritzker or Johnson live there without security. If it's so safe, let your daughters go there. Yeah. Let them get killed, robbed, and raped in their mothers, and tell you don't need no law enforcement. This is so insane what they're saying. If you don't like this country, then go to China, go to Venezuela, go to Cuba, because I've been to all those countries except China. So you want to go see how it is in those countries? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the Middle East.
Yeah, go to the Middle East. And these kids today I just think they have a lack of understanding, immaturity, uneducated. Yeah. When they're running around and they believe that the government is their friend. They don't want their parents to tell them what to do, but they want the government to infringe on all their rights and privacy. And where it goes, it only gets worse. It doesn't get better. Democratic Party wants big government, big control. It's obvious the Republican Party and guys like Trump want to deregulate, and they want less control. They want law and order. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what keeps America safe.
Absolutely. I know.
Yeah, John, I never dreamed we would see this flip-flop, with this anti-law enforcement. And gosh, I can't imagine. I've got a friend that's about to join ICE. He's going to go to Miami-Dade. And I said, man, you better gear up. You better be in tip-top shape and alert at all times, because you're going to need it. John, let's switch gears slightly. Kristin and I talk a lot about brain functionality, psychology, and things like that. I wanted to talk to you about reciprocal trust. When people, we know this in any agency, when people feel seen, they perform better. If they believe they can give input, they perform at a higher level. in your previous world, and we really appreciate you not glorifying it, and but your perspective is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
So did you ever have mafia leaders that ever tapped into that kind of connection where they would actually, collaborate a little bit, or was it all dominance and hierarchy?
No, there's a guy, Joey Scopo Sr., who I talk about a lot. He was a friend of the Gottis. He grew up with him since they're kids. He's one of the nicest guys, I got to say, that I met in the mafia. And when he got killed in front of his house with his
Mm.
son-in-law in the car, his son in the house. This man was always a gentleman. This guy was
Mm.
very smart business-wise. He ran the union at the one time, 731. But he was also a tough guy, but he had no ego. He was very friendly. Every time you talk to him, he's a big guy. And what I was going to say is when he got killed, even when he got killed, the guy thought he had a gun when they shot him up and he was laying on the floor
Mm.
dying. He had a cell phone. He was trying to grab his cell phone. They were
Ugh.
scared to go near him to finish him, and he told them to go F themselves while he was laying.
Mm.
So he
Wow.
was real the whole way through till his death. And I've always had the most respect for him because as a kid, a lot of these guys had bad attitudes. They're trying to
Mm.
scare the pants off you as a younger guy. They're trying to intimidate you. They didn't know how to be nice and just say, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" Then there was some guys that were very nice. There's a guy out of the Bronx, was a Captain Jerry, and his partner, well, who they were very friendly. Hey, buddy, how are you? They didn't have that. They were secure guys. When I see guys like that, I always say guys like that are tough guys because they
Mm.
got nothing to prove. They're gentlemen. They act like nice guys. It's the guys that put that bullshit on, excuse my language, that nonsense on, and they try to be tough and they talk out of the side of their mouths, and people are impressed with that. They're not mob guys or mob affiliates or people that really understand the world. They see them, they go, wow. They'll tell me about a guy that was a complete clown, but he talks like a tough guy. And that three guys over there, they put on the accents, they put on the nonsense. They're big guys. They put the cigar in the mouth. Meanwhile, in our terminology, we say never cracked an egg. He never did anything. So
Mm.
these are the insecure guys. That's why they act like that. The guys that are really about it, and most guys, same thing with fighters. You get guys that jump in the ring every day. They're usually gentlemen. They have no reason to be insecure. They know if they get into a fight, they can handle themselves. So
Mm.
they're gentlemen. They have integrity, just what Ron said. They have pride. They
Mm.
look at the world differently. It doesn't take anything to say thank you and you please and so and so. But when you have guys, when you get into an argument, let's car, and a guy tells you F you, and you say, it was my fault. I cut you off. I'm sorry. And he continues on aggressive towards you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys that really aren't nice guys because everybody loses
Yeah.
their temper. And when a guy says sorry, it disarms you. But when
Right.
guys don't get disarmed, they get more brazen and they
Mm-hmm.
jump out of the car. And I've seen obviously a lot of things in my life. And I see the other guy that said, I'm sorry, give him a beating. And he took it the wrong way. He took it as that guy was a coward, but that guy was just a gentleman.
Mm.
Said he was
Right.
wrong. He didn't want a problem. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wasn't good enough for you. And you took it
Mm.
as a weakness. And guys that take it as a weakness are the cowards, are the ones with no integrity, aren't the
Yeah.
gentlemen, the guys with the egos because they're insecure. And you get that also in the mob where you get these gangsters who tell their sons stories as if they're tough guys. And their
Mm-hmm.
sons, you can't even blame them because they act like idiots because their fathers taught them that.
Yeah.
And they're not really the real deal because the real deal tells their kids to be gentlemen, tells them don't abuse authority, don't abuse waiters and waitresses in
Mm.
restaurants. Just be a nice guy. If that time comes where you have to have another side of you, then you can do that. But
Right.
you don't need to do that prior.
Oh, absolutely. We just finished up a two-part series on parenting, and that ties in perfectly talking
Yeah,
about, yeah, they're gonna model after their parent, right? If they see their
yeah.
dad acting like an ass, they're gonna follow. If we strip away the crime and just look at the human side, what did you learn about the mind of a follower? Perfect segue. You're just talking about that. What makes people loyal even to destructive systems?
Confidence. I talk about confidence as a major thing since kids are 5 years old. Instead of teaching them all this crap about racism, because there is no racism. Kids play with each other, every color, every religion in the schoolyard. they're being taught these crazy ideologies. You have people like Joy Reid that goes on television, spoiled, wealthy, and
Mhm.
just spurs out, constant racism, which is, she's so divisive that she has no position. No, they shouldn't have a position in any kind of authority or journalist or TV or anything when you're just causing animosity to people. How do you think you're a good person when you do that? I mean, I could do that now, talk good about the mafia. There's certain things, or I could tell the truth, the 99.9% of it, to make sure kids don't go in that direction. So I think that the followers are people that have no identity, and
Mm.
I think that's one of the reasons why I say every school from 5 years up should have school classes on confidence if they're not getting that at home, if their
Yes.
family's a broken family, or mentally ill, or drugs or
Mhm.
alcohol, whatever. But at least in school, you can learn something about confidence, which hopefully stops them from going in a criminal direction. Hopefully stops them to using drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
and it's something that'll give them confidence in themselves to go out and whether you want to go to school, pick up a trade, or go into business. As you get older, if you're taught to believe in yourself, I think that'll put you away, stare you away from the person that has no confidence. That's the person that follows a bully. That's the person that tries
Yeah.
to take a shortcut. Doesn't have any. He or she doesn't have self-esteem, and I think you got to learn those qualities at a young age. So as you
Yeah.
develop, you're not that person that's weak, because only weak people are bullying other people.
Mhm.
So you look at people like Hamas, or, and I use, how do you possibly, anybody can stick up for anybody that kills women, rapes women, kills children, abuses children, or takes their authority and abuses it. I don't care who you are, legally, illegally. Parole officers, you guys were parole officers. I had some very good parole officers that helped me change my life.
Mm.
They weren't there to say, I got you. They were there to try to talk to me when I came in to go in the right direction. And I respected them. Maybe some guys don't, and you guys know better than I do. Those are the ones, yeah, you got to put your foot a little bit on their neck, because they don't respect authority. They're not going to go in the right direction. But you can try to influence them to go in the right direction. If they don't, then then there's got to be a hard line also. But you have people, and I won't say her whole name. Sharon was my parole officer, and she was one of the reasons I changed my life. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I look at people like her that helped me change my life, and I didn't want to disappoint her.
Mm.
So there's people of authority that you say, hey, they generally care, and I don't want to disappoint them. And I
Mm.
think that's what a lot of young kids need, somebody to follow that would give them in the right direction and tell them, no, whoever told you you're not good enough, you are good enough. And you can
Mhm.
do it. You just got to believe in yourself, and you got to be taught that.
Mm. Beautiful
You know,
words there.
very impactful. So
Yeah.
John, we really appreciate your honesty and openness, but I also
Mhm.
appreciate the fact that, you say, I'm not glorifying this. And I can tell you have a heartfelt concern for kids, gangs, whatever it is. And we really appreciate that. But let's transition, and Kristin, you can start off, but let's go to, let's call it transformation and redemption.
Yeah. So, John, you've talked about prison being a turning point. Psychologically, what changes when a leader is stripped of power and control?
Well, you got to eventually look in the mirror and see the real you. I think
Mm.
that's one of the things that's a difficult thing to do. And I'll go back
Yeah.
to Gotti. Gotti was, the father was very educated, not in school. He didn't go to school. But if he didn't go in the direction he went to, he could have been a CEO. He was just
Mm.
good at, it's like certain baseball, because I was a big baseball player. Coaches know how to motivate. He knew how to motivate. I mean, don't get me wrong, he motivated in the wrong direction, but he knew how to motivate. It's a
Yeah.
talent. Either you have it or you don't. He was good with people. He knew how to make people like him. He knew how to get the media to like him. He was intelligent in a lot of ways that people don't talk about. And I believe if he had a different upbringing, he could have been somebody that would have been a great politician. Uh,
Mm.
and he was strong in a lot of ways. the problem is, like most leaders, uh, is you start believing in your own, print, instead of,
Mm,
if you would kept the direction of positive instead of negative, then you would
yeah.
go in the right direction. But it's a thing of, you know, he didn't get proper love when he was a kid. He had a big family,
Mm,
and the father was a degenerate gambler, and he wasn't good to the kids. He beat them up, and so he had reasons. And I'm not making excuses for kids, because I had not a good childhood either, and that's not an excuse. It's just psychologically, I guess, it takes effect on us, and we do the
mm-hmm.
wrong thing. I think that, again, ego is the destruction of anybody that's in power that doesn't want to look at themselves honestly.
Hey, John, I don't know if we're talking about, transformation, redemption. I don't know if there was a moment or, take us into a jail cell. You said you wept in the mornings, but was there a moment or was it a slow transition that you started realizing this life is absolutely wrong? It's not for me. Did you have a God moment? Take us through that. What changed you?
Well, first, I'll say one thing. I'm very faithful to God.
Mm,
I wasn't in the past, and that helped in a big transition of me, without a doubt. I believe in Jesus and the Lord. Um, I think that one of the biggest transitions for me is in my 20s. I started to mature. I started to have money, even though it was illegal. I put it into legal businesses. I was transforming, in a different world of people that were successful, and felt embarrassed when I was around them. I felt like I was a
mm,
phony, because I'd go places where people didn't know me, and I was, wealthy,
mm,
and I knew I was a phony. I didn't get there the right way, so I started losing respect for myself. And I think that I wanted to change that. I just didn't know how to get away from that. So
yeah.
as I got to my late 20s, early 30s, and I started having children, I was thinking more and more, this world is fake, full of shit. All my friends aren't your friends, they're your work friends. It's only
Mm-hmm.
about money. It's only about using me to do what they can't do. They didn't have the
Ball.
guts, balls. Excuse my, I don't
Yeah,
like to use that terminology, but
I just
they
said
didn't,
that on our last podcast episode. So,
they didn't have the balls. I mean, they could say
all
what they
right.
want, but obviously, for all the things I did, these guys didn't do this kind of stuff. They can
Yeah.
act like they did. They can lie. None of them will sit across from me and they'll say, "Well, they're still active." Well, have your lawyer sit across from me then, so they could talk to me about this. I'll get on TV against on your show anywhere with lawyers to tell me any different. These guys aren't about any of this. Very few guys, and I try to keep my own set of rules in that life, which is difficult to do. I would never
Mm-hmm.
kill a cop. I would never kill an armed guard. I would never kill a correctional officer. I wouldn't do things to women. I wouldn't do some of the stuff that these other guys did. I just wouldn't do it. Uh,
Yeah.
against other criminals, yes, and again, not a good thing. But I'm honest. But I think that when you look at some of these things, and as I got older, I started to understand I wanted to get out of this life, and I just didn't know how to get out of it. And when these guys all betrayed me, it wasn't even a hesitation on my part. I stayed in those jails for 3 years in Brazil, and I was
Mm,
getting newspaper article after newspaper article of all the betrayals. I was getting paperwork after paperwork of all the betrayals of two
wow.
crime families. It's not what people think. These are the two families I was involved with the most, especially the Gambino family, but the Bonanno family also. And they just betrayed me.
Mm,
And so it was an easy choice for me. It
yeah.
wasn't, it's a funny thing. And if people look at, I just got one of my cases. I was in Brazil while the trial was going on. There was witness after witness and all my co-defendants that just threw me under the bus. Not a little,
Mm,
but completely lied on their testimonies.
oh,
Gangsters lied about their testimonies, and it's fine. It helped me change my life. It's part of my life I regret. Can't get it back, and the only thing I can do is move forward and try to keep transforming my life and tell kids, don't be
Yeah.
foolish like me. You're going to ruin your life. We only got one time to go around. And I spent decades in and out of jails, suffering in solitary confinements, lived like an animal for 3 years in a Brazil penitentiary where you're tortured,
Mm.
and going to the bathroom on the floor, and no toilets, like in no
Oof.
lights in the jail, food of rice and beans full of mice, piss, and
Oh
crap.
my gosh.
Whether it rains inside your cells with 60 guys, 58 guys in a 12-man cell, solitary confinements that were on floors that were full of mosquitoes and
Oh my gosh.
water, and no pillows, no covers, none of this crap, no rack. You're sleeping on a rack. You're sleeping on stone with red ants that bite the hell out of you. And
Wow.
an advocate group was never in those jails one time, and people could check that to verify. I was in Bangu 2 prison, one of the worst prisons in Brazil, in any country, and I was in Ari Franco, one of the worst places, also transition
Mm.
prison. So people can look that up. Judges
Wow.
said they wouldn't spend one day; they'd rather die than spend a day there. So
Mm.
when these
That
guys in the mob talk, they didn't live my life. They never left their little neighborhoods. I've
yeah.
been in probably 40 countries. I know my way around the world. I know my way around Cuba, Africa, Venezuela. So
Mm.
I know the world better than most.
Oh my gosh. John, you're the experience you just talked about, and we just scratched the surface, but that made you so not only physically tough, but mentally. I mean, you don't get tougher than that. Most people would end up in a loony bin after just a fraction of what you experienced.
Well, mental strength is both ways. Like I said, you have your. I never thought about killing myself. I know friends that killed themselves in prisons,
Mm.
and I know people that weren't my friends that killed themselves in prisons. I saw it. I witnessed it. Guys that took their own lives. But I also tell you about it wasn't easy. I'm not sitting here going, flexing muscle.
Yeah.
I cried a lot. And I
Mhm.
tell people, when people say you cried, of course I cried. I'm a human being. I seen
Yeah.
serious killers that cried in front of me and apologized. I'm talking about gangsters that knew me, that we were
Mhm.
friends in prison, that weren't getting out. And I said to them, there's nothing to apologize about. And, it's your life. I get it.
Mhm.
And some of them didn't get another chance. Some of them lost their
Mhm.
lives. I know not 10 or 20 or 30 guys. When guys talk to me about my life, I said, forget my life. My friends, I name them like crazy. I can name probably 100 names, just like I said about 100 people I batted. I can name them. I don't just say it. I actually say
Mhm.
their names on the thing. So we all stayed together, so
Mm.
everybody's dead for the most part that grew up with me.
Oh,
They're not
wow.
all dead because we didn't live a crazy, wild uh, life that, I'm trying to save kids' lives so they don't end up like us,
Mm.
or worse, because one
Yeah.
of my friends was a vegetable. He just recently died.
Oh.
So, you look at this stuff, and, strength comes from, and people are stronger than they think. There's
Mhm.
people that break, but then what more pain you suffer, you seem to overcome it as a human for some reason. We know how
Mhm.
to combat it, and you just gotta continue and try to better yourself. And like I said, when I was in those positions, it was crying, it was working out, it was praying, it was to your family, it was God, it was, I'll change my life, and and continue. And every day is a fight, to be honest with you. People are
Right.
always challenging you. That world didn't go away from me, because everybody wants to say, no matter what I do, if I raise my voice, look, he didn't change. It's very hard. You're not a perfect human being. I just don't do what I used to do.
Right.
And no matter what, they attack me for my past life, so they don't want you to continue in a good path. There was a journalist that did an interview with me and said, "Do you think it's right?" And she used the word that you're a celebrity now. And I looked at her and I said, "I don't know. Would you be happy if?" And I don't like using the word celebrity; it's a stupid word. But so what? People know you because you're on media and magazines, whatever.
Yeah.
I said to her, would you like if I continued in the path I was doing? Is that okay with you? What'd you want me to do? Do you want me to do the right thing, or do you want me to continue to do the wrong thing? It's the stupidest
Mm-hmm.
question I ever heard. I says, and if you don't want to forgive me, I really don't give a shit what you say about me. And she was
Right.
shocked that I said that. I says, why would I care what you say? Who are you?
Right.
You got an opinion? You can have it. I'm not going to try to change your mind. I says, but
Right.
I'll worry about what God thinks about me. And I'll live
Yes.
my life, is what God wants for me, or the path that I'm supposed to live for God. I can't live my life worrying about what you or anybody other individual thinks about me.
Right.
It's me trying to do the right thing for my family, for myself, and for my past. And I can't go back there. If I could, I would.
It's the beauty of being a Christian. Jesus died on the cross to save us from our sins, John. So
Yeah,
we're all sinners here, right? We're all sinners.
yeah,
So yeah, shame on her. Ron, I know you have a great question coming up.
Well, no, I'm sitting here realizing what a miracle this guy we're talking to.
I know.
He's a miracle. You shouldn't be here, John. I know you know that, and thank God that I feel your passion to help younger people and people escape
Mhm.
all of this, this inner contradiction and lack of values. We see it in corporate America. Kristin and I have the fortune of, this podcast doing well and the other things that we do in life. Since we've talked a lot about you, then your transformation, let's talk a little bit about advice you might give to leaders, because we know that there was this, and I believe in some ways, I know it was loyalty, in the crime family, but we know that some of it was superficial. What do you think about in today, if we're talking to leaders, managers, maybe CEOs, how do you think they can build genuine loyalty without manipulation or manipulating their employees? Any advice?
yeah. I mean, I own businesses. I used to go out and I go to my restaurant. I had a pizzeria restaurant, and I would go sweep floors. And
Mm.
I look at my workers and I would say to them, "How come nobody swept?" And then I'd sweep. And so I wanted to show them that if it's not beneath me, it's not beneath you. I'm not telling
Mm.
you to do anything I wouldn't do. And that's the first step for any leader, to show them that you feel you're equal with them. You know,
Yes.
you're not better than them, you're not different than them. And you can't, again, the ego is everything. I have a neighbor now that's suing me. He fights with the whole block. He's suing me because I put an addition on that he believes for some reason doesn't interfere with them. And he's, whatever reason, he's saying the addition is something with the legality of it. And
Mm.
for me, when he tries to antagonize me from who I was in the past, and he wrote the court with his attorney about my past. Nothing to do with the
Mm.
issue. This is what people do. They try to
Yeah.
get under your skin and get into your ego. And for a boss of any leadership role, they have to leave that alone. They got to leave their who they were in the past, where they stand today, that they know better than the individual next to them, even though
Mhm.
his position is under yours. You have to give him the belief they can always be you or above you, that you're no better than him. It's just hard work. And you have to influence them in a good way, that if you want your life to change, you're in control to change it. Every day
Right.
you wake up to make yourself a better person, not to compete with me, but to compete with yourself. And if you
Mm.
compete with yourself and know that you're an example to your family and to yourself and to God, I think that's one of the most important things that any boss or any leader can tell, whether you're in the Army, whether you're in the Marines, whether you are a CEO of a company. The idea is not to hate the next individual and be jealous of them, because there's a lot of people in this world that are envious and jealous of, let's use our president as an example. If you don't like him, he's the president of this country, respect him. But if you don't respect him, other countries won't respect him. And who are you
Right.
hurting by doing that? And the same thing in the
Yeah.
workplace. If he's your boss, you might not agree with everything he's doing, but respect him. And the same from your
Right.
leader, your boss, he needs to respect his employees by showing that he has respect for them for doing the menial jobs they do and that he would do and that he has done in the past, and openly speak to him and say, listen, I like you. I think you have the ability, and encouragement is everything in life. If you make
Mhm.
somebody feel good about themselves, they'll work for you.
Yeah, I
That's
love
good
that.
stuff.
It's so true, it's so true. I
Yeah, it really
wanna
is.
throw a question out there that I don't know if we hear asked very often. You tell me, but, what was the most effective boss that you ever saw in the mob world?
Most effective. I mean, in a lot of ways, Gotti was effective. So I would say he definitely was effective because he knew how to move people, whatever that took. Uh,
Mhm.
this downfall of him was obviously he loved the media, which was,
Mm,
but
yeah,
anybody that is good with people have something special, and that's something that I believe you can't be taught. That's
right.
in you,
Yep.
whether you got that charisma or not.
Mhm.
And again, you look at the greatest leader to me in my lifetime that I ever seen was President Trump.
Mhm.
He knows how you might not like the way he gets there. Some people might not like the way he speaks, but I'm talking about the end game. They don't have to agree with the way he speaks. I happen to like the way he speaks because I was raised
Me too.
hardcore from my father.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
why he's not a soft guy, why should he act? But he does have a soft side to him. He's very
Mhm.
caring. He's donated his own personal money to I don't know how many people that came in with stories from all over the world.
Yeah.
But he knows how to make deals. He knows how to influence other leaders. He knows how to, in a good way, intimidate those leaders. So, and he's a pillar of strength, and he's about God, family, law enforcement. And if you look at his family, and this is not me not disliking Biden, it has nothing to do with that. This is just an honest assessment.
Mhm.
You look at a perfect family of kids. President Trump's kids are all gentlemen. They speak like gentlemen. They carry themselves
Mhm.
like gentlemen. His younger
True.
son Darren is unbelievably intelligent. His daughter is. Her husband is. And then you look
Mhm.
at the Biden family. They're a wreck. That's such a dysfunctional American family you've ever seen one as an example not to be this. So if you're
Mhm.
looking from the outside and you're being honest, an honest assessment of an American family, the president's family is honestly a perfect role model of other families to be like. And then you might not like the guy for whatever your reason is. I mean, I watch these people so biased. I mean, there's something mentally ill with them to continue on this path that even when he was in Congress speaking about, and it was he was speaking about a young boy, I forget his name, he had brain uh, injuries and cancer.
Oh, DJ, I
Uh,
think. Yeah.
and the Democrats wouldn't stand and applaud for
I
him.
know.
This
I
isn't about
know.
President Trump. It's about them. How about the victims of the families like Lincoln Riley? You don't stand
Mhm.
for them. There's something mentally ill
Yes.
when this has nothing to do with the president, but these are poor victims and their families that lost their lives. It's like no different than me. My daughter was murdered by fentanyl. If you
Mm.
hate me, what does it have to do with my daughter? She's an
Mhm.
innocent girl
Amen.
that lost her life
Yeah.
and had a child.
Mm.
And people say, well, F you. No, you want to F me, you want to hope I die, go ahead. But what does it
Mm.
have? How mean? What is wrong with you when you cheer on these deaths or you cheer on Charlie Kirk? He wasn't a gangster. He didn't do what I did. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't talk about killing people. He talked about God and family. If you
Mhm.
disagree with them, okay. But how can school teachers and doctors, and I'm talking about mainstream media people and
Yeah.
people that are in high positions in government that wished him death? There's something really wrong with society because I
Mhm.
understand all this stuff because I lived it. And there's something wrong when you can say and wish and laugh and joke and point at his neck. And this is something
Mhm.
ill. And for our government officials that okay this rhetoric and push it,
Right.
condone it, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
This is insanity that I never seen before. I'm like, man, did I really change my life to the extent that these people are the opposite way so sick that
Right.
I'm like, they're so sick. Like I tell my kids, if somebody tried to kill me tomorrow, even though I'm gone with that life, I get it. You can't go, oh, poor me. Even I wouldn't say, oh, poor me. I made big mistakes in my past. There's people that probably still want to kill me, whatever. But Charlie Kirk wasn't that guy.
Right.
He wasn't one of those guys that made a mistake. He was a guy that only spoke about debating. And that's what
Yes.
this country's about. So when you go and you have a Republican judge that goes to a law school and wants to talk to them, and they're shouting him down as if they're uneducated street criminals, and they're going to school to be lawyers
Mm.
to debate and to arbitrate cases, and this is what they do. And the dean of the schools are okay in that. We're way off course here.
Right. We're on
So,
your page, John.
yeah, as we close down, we had this was kind of a listener submission. I have a friend, Bruce, who really loves to study the mafia, but this is more lighthearted as we close. But we're there because we only see movies. Now, I do have a little bit of experience because of being a U.S. probation officer and the training academy, but not real in depth. I see mainly what other people see. Were there funny moments where everyone let their guard down and had fun, or is it just this serious, intense life all the time? And
No,
we
no, we
love
had
stories.
no. I got to tell you, we had some really fun at times too, joking and laughing and yeah. But I always say the same thing: if you want to have fun and camaraderie and all that, join a bowling team then, because I mean, we joked a lot. John, again, when you went out with the father, he was a lot of fun. Actually, he would let his hair down. He'd laugh. He'd joke. He liked playing gags on people. We did a lot of that. We had water balloon fights. We had kids playing softball against the adults, and we joke at the games. We did a lot of stupid little gimmick jokes, and we had, we one time on Dry Side of Humor, we came in with guns in one of our cafes with the blanks in them, and we had a hit, and we were doing it to scare one of the guys from Italy that ran the cafe as it, and he, I mean, it was dry sense of humor, but it was fun.
Oh, I
And
love it. Oh,
so, we were always practical joking things and throwing water on each other and, different things like that. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of fun times, but you don't need the criminal aspect to have fun. You don't
That's
need a
right.
group of friends to commit crimes 99% of the time and to have 1% of fun. And like I tell
yeah.
everybody, when they ask me, did you have a lot of fun in that life? And did you travel? And was there nightclubs that you owned and cars and girls? And yeah. But then you didn't read the fine print. The fine print is at the end of it all, you're going to suffer. Your friends are going to die. You may lose your life. People are going to try to kill you multiple times. You're going to cry your eyes out. You're going to spend years in jail. You're going to fight with your family, and your kids are going to all be mad at you because you left them. And you're going to leave your family in disarray. And at the end of it all, when people ask me, would you do it again? I go, only if you're insane, you would do it again.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to enjoy life. You don't need to do that.
Mm. Wow.
No.
Beautiful message. I'm just like blown away. There's so many avenues I want to go into, but this would end up a 4-hour interview, John. I think we need to do something again. This is really cool. And, I'm sure you get asked a lot of the same questions. Is there a question that you would ask yourself that you're never asked by whoever's interviewing you, right? Or a reporter? If so, can you share that question and the answer?
I don't have the answer, but I have the question.
Let's hear
Uh,
it.
and I ask this question to myself every day. What the hell was I thinking to
Mm,
go so wrong over my life? Like when I'm talking about all these baseball batting and shootings and stabbings and killings and like, what the hell happened to me? And and I ask myself that always, and I still
mm,
don't have a real answer. Uh, Life's not perfect for anybody, but how did I think what I was doing was honorable at the time?
mm.
And even now, like when people try to get my goat, I'm mad. And when people are threatening me, I'm mad. And when people are doing what this neighbor's doing, attacking me, I'm mad. But I don't react the same. When I see these kids attacking cops and ICE, do I want to go there? Yeah, I want to go there and be able to do to them what I used to do, but this time in a good way, protecting this country and the officers and law enforcement, our president. Uh, I just don't get it. I don't know. That question's haunting me every day. I ask myself, how can I have screwed things up to that extent so badly? I don't know. I just don't have the answer. It's not one thing. It's too complicated, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. I mean, your environment, one, right? Like that's very difficult when you have an environment that is one thing. That's what you know, especially at a young age, such as yourself. So, yeah, it sounds like you beat yourself up every day. But then, does that motivate you? Does that drive you?
Yeah, it drives me, and it's frustrating for people that take advantage of my past because they all
Yeah,
poke at me, knowing that
right,
I won't do anything.
right.
And they use it against me on a regular basis, and I'm used
Mm,
to it at this point.
mm-hmm,
They turn around the accuracy of really what happened and why I cooperated against the mafia, who actually cooperated against me years
mm,
prior, before I end up firing back at them. Probably took about 5 years later, after all them doing that to me while I was away. So it's not as simple as that, as the media tried to make it sound, without
yeah,
telling the backstory of them actually giving me up first. uh,
yeah,
Different than what happened. But again, the story is this: it's not a life of loyalty. It's not a life. It's a life of betrayal. It's not a life of caring about anybody but themselves, and it's a
mm-hmm,
life of dishonesty, uh, double dealing, egos. Mostly cowards in that life, not
mm-hmm,
educated, not businessmen. So it's nothing what people really think. They have such a outlook of this through television and movies, and they make it exciting, and they don't see the reality of all this, how bad it is.
mm, right.
And it's just a rotten life and rotten people that are involved in it. There's a handful of nice guys that probably wish the same as I. They don't have the courage to get out of it.
Yeah. I would be remiss. I want to offer condolences. You've lost your father recently
Thank you.
and your daughter, and that is very heavy. And so, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us.
You
And
know,
yeah, that's heartbreaking on both accounts, especially with your daughter. I just have to say, my sister was a drug addict for 10 years and she ended up going to prison, and she did get clean in prison, and she's been clean like 7, 8 years now. But she tells my family all the time, if I was an addict today, I would be dead because of the fentanyl that's
yeah.
everywhere. And it's very hard to avoid, and it's so terrifying.
One
Um,
Percocet pill my daughter took at 9:30 in the morning, coming home to me on a flight. She was visiting
mm,
her mom, so it wasn't like
oh,
she was out partying all night.
yeah.
It wasn't the case.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
that's terrible.
It is. Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. Well, John, we'll come to a close, but we really do appreciate your time, your perspective. I hope many doors open for you. I know they
Mhm.
already have, but I'm saying more to come
Yeah.
Thank
because your story is worth telling. And again, we know you don't glorify it, but it does it does get audiences' attention. We know that. And then
Mhm.
you turn it into this warning and your story of redemption. It's all very moving, very impactful.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
It
we really
reminds us,
appreciate it.
redemption isn't weakness. It's the most powerful form of leadership there is.
Yeah. I again, God gives you strength, I believe, and a purpose, and I hope other people find Him and faith,
Mhm.
and think about staying on the right track for their families' sake, not even just for them.
Where can people follow you and get in touch with you if they want to book you for speaking? All of that
Um,
good
they
stuff.
can reach me by John Alite. It's one word on Instagram.
Yep.
They can reach me on my podcast, the John Alite Show. They can reach me by email, John Jon Lucas.ja@gmail.com.
Perfect. We'll put
And
that in the show notes so they can find it nice and easy.
I
Yeah, we
really
will.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you, and a very impactful story, John.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Be the
Good
leader
luck.
you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.